If I bring it down to two words, power and respect cannot come without power. That is the language that you need to understand in the Middle East. If you don't understand the language, you are doomed.
Power and respect.
And I'll give you the best example. I come from the world of negotiation. Let's say me and you are having an argument right now about who this plant belongs to. You say, it's mine.
This is my studio.
Exactly. No, you say, it's my studio. I said, no, I want it. Now, you are way stronger than me. And you come and say...
I don't know, you're a special forces officer.
For the sake of the story. And you come and say, if this guy takes my plant, I can break every bone in his body. But then you come in and say, but you know what? For the sake of peace, I'm going to listen. How about I'll give you part of the plant and you grow it, or I don't know what, we can grow it together for peace. Everybody in your world, let's say in the European, American world, say like, wow, that was a sign of strength. That man showed restraint, showed diplomacy. He's a powerful man. In the Arab world, that man is weak. He's pretending to be strong, but I sense weakness. I can exploit that.
Hello and welcome to State of a Nation. I'm Elon Levy. The Druze community are a cherished part of Israel's cultural mosaic, but ultimately very difficult to pin down. A religion that splintered off from Islam a millennium ago, ethnic group that spans national borders in the Middle East but never defined itself as a modern nation, an Arabic-speaking minority, and proud patriots in the Jewish and democratic state of Israel. My guest today is Druze activist Mansur Ashkar, a former IDF Special Forces officer who now speaks about the Druze community and its special role in Israeli society on social media. Together we talk about why the Druze community in Israel are such phenomenal overachievers, overrepresented in its officer corps and punching way above their weight. We talk about what it means and how it's possible to be an Arab Zionist, and why this Arabic-speaking minority is so proudly patriotic. And we talk about what we, Jewish Israelis, don't understand about the mentality and language in the broader Middle East, and how we have to wise up in order to fight to secure our freedom and the freedom of all the religious and ethnic minorities in Israel against the threats on our borders. Welcome to State of a Nation.
Breaking news out of Israel this morning.
Shocking hostage taking.
Hundreds of Israelis are dead.
I want to bring in Israeli government spokesman.
What happens when the 4-day pause?
How do you resolve this?
Where does this go?
Mansur Ashkar, welcome to State of a Nation.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I want to first of all apologize to our viewers for the late release of the episode. Our technical team simply had to spend half an hour readjusting the lighting in the studio here because you insisted on wearing a hat. What's the deal with the hat?
Well, the deal with the hat is when I started speaking on October 8th, I had a mad scientist haircut. And I asked my 4-year-old to give me a haircut, which some might see as not a very wise decision. And he went zzz, zzz, and I looked more like Einstein, so I started putting a hat. And since then, I kind of stuck with the hat. And now coming here again, I went and I got a haircut with an Arab hairdresser in Germany, and he gave me a very Arab kind of haircut. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to keep the hat right now.
Okay, well, it suits you and it's become part of your brand.
Yeah, it is. It is. I like it.
Look, what I want to do today is understand from you where the Druze community stands in the post-October 7th era. Who exactly the Druze are. Try to understand this community that remains largely an enigma to the outside world, partly because its religion is largely secret, even a secret from many of its own adherents.
From most of the Druze, yeah.
But first, before we get on to the Druze, I want to understand more about you. Tell me your story. Where did you grow up? How did we get to this place?
Oh, wow. So I grew up, I was born and raised in Usfia and Mghar. That's the two villages. My family origins from Lebanon, Syria, and Israel. One side was probably for the last 1,000 years in Israel, and the others came from there. And we were one of the first Druze families to leave the Shire and to go to the world. We were one of the first Druze families to leave a Druze village and go live in a Jewish city.
Which is still relatively rare, is it not?
Very rare. When we first got to Eilat, that was the city that we went to, no one knew what the Druze were. They were like literally shocked. People thought that our flags were different flags. They had no idea that it's a Druze flag, and we had
They thought they were Palestinian flags or pride flags?
Both.
Both.
Sometimes people will come, like a whole car will come and think that my mom's house is a restaurant for LGBTQ. So they'll come knocking, and my mom is super hospitable. Come, faddalu, and then they'll come in and they're trying to like, that's a cool theme, but they're like, think that's not LGBTQ here. So there was a lot of misunderstanding about it, and we became pretty much ambassadors for the Druze community in my town. My mom became very outspoken about it, and she helped even change the whole education system in Israel after a while, because she realized that they're not talking enough about minority groups in Israel. But just imagine that, a Druze woman that didn't finish school ended up reaching the ministry in Israel for education and convincing them to change the whole curriculum for the state of Israel, because she believes that there should be more representation of Bedouins, Christians, Druze, Muslims, all the minority groups, and they did it. And thanks to my mom, this is right now in the Israeli system. Instead of one class about them, they have a whole dedicated week for almost every group.
Phenomenal. And that's part of the Druze story in Israel. There are phenomenal overachievers, and you yourself served in a special forces unit.
I was an officer in the special forces.
An officer, no less.
Yeah, I was a negotiator in the army. I was dealing a lot with hostage rescue during my service. My whole family came from like a very rich military kind of background. My grandfather was the first non-Jew to light the Masu'ah.
The Independence Day torch?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
amazing.
Back in the days.
What did he do to earn that incredible honor?
Wow. He helped liberate Beit Shan. He, by himself, fought 13 terrorists in Lebanon and took them down only by himself, saving his friends.
Single-handedly?
Yeah, single-handedly.
Extraordinary.
Wow, he was a very impressive man. And he was a religious man. He was a friend of Yitzhak Rabin. He was into politics. So with all the effort that he did for the Jews, for the Druze, they found him worthy to light the Masu'ah.
And yet, despite this extraordinary connection and record of service to the State of Israel, you live in Germany now.
Yes.
Why did you make, can I call it Yerida, right?
Yeah, you can call it Yerida up to the north.
I hope it's only temporary.
I hope so too. I mean, I love Germany. I'm enjoying it. But I also got so much from growing up in Israel that I want my son to get that as well. There's so much richness in this culture, so much diversity that it's hard to find anywhere else. Hard to find anywhere else. So I would really love to have it. But I'm there because of my kid. My kid is there, and we have a great childhood there. So it's a good place.
So look, tell me, many of our viewers will never have heard about the Druze community. Maybe some would have heard in the context of the Hezbollah attack on Maj'd al-Shams that killed 12 children. Perhaps others will have heard that there is a minority non-Jewish community in Israel called the Druze. Give me your elevator pitch. Who are you?
Who am I?
By the way, I have to say, when you speak abroad and ask people, where are you from? What's your story? People take offense as if you're saying, you're not really from here if you start asking them about their origins. But in Israel, it's very different. Everyone has an extraordinary origin story and a community to be proud of. And it's like how we sniff each other out. We find out, wait, where are you from? Where are your grandparents from? So tell me, who are the Druze community? What are you doing here?
What are we doing here? So, in short, the Druze community is a new age, 1,000 years old religion. They came out of the Islam. They were in the mountains of Turkey, next to the Jewish Ashkenaz, by the way. And then Jewish Ashkenaz went to Europe, and the Druze actually went to Egypt to start this like really cool startup. They called it the Druze religion, which came and brought the concept of all religions are right. And God gave the Jews Moses as a prophet, the Muslims Muhammad, the Christians Jesus, the Hindus, and et cetera, and it gave them a little bit of a glimpse of what he wants, and all religions are right. When they got to Egypt in the beginning, they liked it, the caliphate there, but then they realized that there's one thing they don't like here. They believe in reincarnation, meaning that another prophet can come after Muhammad, and then they started killing and slaughtering them, and then they had to close the religion, make it secret. That was the origins of why it became secret in the beginning, and then they even closed the doors. And they went and they started living in Lebanon, Syria, Israel.
And when you say close the doors, there is no way to convert
into
the Druze religion? Not even if you ask 3 times persistently, like in
not
Judaism?
even if you're George Clooney and you're married to a Druze woman and you will beg, they won't let you in.
There's no way to have protectia, special connections, a little bit of elbow grease.
There's no door even there, so like you can't. There's no lock for it, there's nothing, it's just sealed.
So the Druze community, indigenous to the Middle East, and begins essentially as a splinter group from Islam that splits off from Islam around
from under the Shia.
Okay, from out of Shia Islam around what period?
Around 1,000 years ago.
Around 1,000 years ago. And since then they've been living across the Middle East, and I don't want to stick labels on things because labels are a very European invention. Wait, what are you? Are you a religion? Are you a nation? Are you an ethnic? But how do the Druze, at least the Druze in Israel, conceive of themselves? A religion, an ethnicity, a nation? I mean, if we have to put European labels on them.
So the Druze are an ethnicity and a religion. They see themselves as we are the Druze, and our religion is also kind of similar to the Jews a little bit in that aspect. And you know,
More similarities than just the rhyme in the name.
oh yeah, I think one of the reasons that the Druze and the Jews got along so well, because they both have the same kind of mentality of we just want to live our life. They're not missionaries. You know, it's very hard to become a Jew. They make it hard even. They're not trying to recruit.
Not as hard as you.
The Druze even took it one step further.
Yeah.
So they're not trying to convert anyone. They're
You
not
could say
trying
it's exclusivist.
exclusive. They're not trying to control anyone. They just want to live their life peacefully. So I think when they both met, they're like, wow, that's so cool. Like, you're like me. We can live together. We can respect each other. And that helped them bring that alliance that they have.
There was just this immediate click where in the period building up to Israel's independence, they both realized that they were natural allies against a region where there is still that imperial impulse to impose Islam, to impose Arab culture. Both the Jews and the Druze, you're saying, have this mentality that is basically liberal in saying, look, live and let live, leave us alone, let us do our stuff, give us our rights, and all sababa.
It's actually the prime example I heard from my grandfather. When my grandfather was in Israel and the Jews started coming back to their lands, he had two brothers. They came from Syria. 3 brothers came from Syria. His 2 older brothers had wives and children. And then what happened is, in the Arab world, the Muslim world, came and said, they sent a message like out there, all the Arabs get out of the land, we're going to come, we're going to kill all the Jews, we're going to genocide them from the river to the sea, and then you can come back after 2 or 3 days, maybe a week or 2, and you can even take their lands.
This is during Israel's War of Independence.
This is during Israel's War of Independence.
The Druze, you're saying, receive a tip-off. Arab armies are coming. They are coming to liberate Palestine, quote unquote, from the river to the sea. They're going to murder all the Jews. You probably want to step out of the way. And that's how we ended up with a lot of the Palestinian refugees.
Exactly. So the same story, only now hearing it from the Druze side. So the Druze got the same memo. Like, I didn't know they had working relationship, they were living in the same village.
And they didn't skadoodle and wait for the Jews to be killed.
So the 2 brothers of my grandfather, they had wife and children. And they came and told him, his name was Mansur. I'm named after him. Tell Mansur, Isma, war is coming. They want to kill all the Jews. We don't know how is it going to go, but it's not safe for us to stay here. We're going to go back to our mountain in Syria, weather it out, see what happens, and come back later. My grandfather came and told me, listen, I'm not going to hold it against you. You have a wife and you have children, I understand, but I'm staying here and I'm staying with the Jews and I'm not going to fight with the Jews because they are my allies. And many Druze saw the same thing because they said the Muslims have been trying to genocide us for the last 1,000 years. Now the Jews come and we actually see that we can live with them. They want to live with us. They're not trying to change us. They're going to respect them. So he said, I'm staying here and I'm staying with the Jews. And he stayed, and then the borders got closed after that, you know, and Israel got established, and then many people got stuck outside, and now they want to come back, and etc. Funny enough, the Druze never asked to come back. They kind of realized, okay, you know what? We could have stayed. We decided to go. All right, now we live here, you know. But anyway.
Interesting. You're saying that in 48, during the same dislocation that caused the Palestinian refugee crisis, there were also Druze who heeded the warnings of the Arab armies to get out of the way.
They were afraid.
They went, but they don't consider themselves UNRWA refugees now. They've simply resettled in
they resettled where they are.
Fascinating.
Because I think a lot of the Palestinian concept of want to come back is not necessarily coming back, it's just they hate the Jews so much, or they're feeling so offended and hurt that the Jews won that war that they tried to bring on them, so they're kind of holding into that. But it's not necessarily, because they could have settled anywhere they went and built their life. But instead of settling there and building a life, they kept holding to that and inciting for terrorism and I don't know what. They took it in a different way than the Druze. So some Druze stayed here, some Druze stayed there. And my grandfather never met his brothers. We used to go to the Shouting Mountain. I don't know if you ever heard that.
Tell our viewers.
So there's a mountain that you can see in Maj'd al-Shams where it got split. So you have the Syrian side and the Israeli side. And back then there wasn't Facebook, Telegram, you know, video calls. So we used to drive for a picnic once or every few months, and we stand there, and then we'll hold a megaphone with binoculars, and we'll see our relatives from Syria. They'll see us, and we'll start shouting to each other. And that's how they used to talk. That's how he used to talk with his brothers and his family. I just had a grandchild. Oh, really? He lifted him up. We were looking, you know, look. Oh, he looks like you, Mansur, and etc., etc. And that was literally our childhood, keeping in touch with them. There was no hatred, there was no anger. There was just, okay, that's our life there, that's our life here. We made our decisions. We chose to stand and fight with the Jews, and we build a future with them. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things, because the Druze and the Jews, is the prime example of coexistence, the prime example. And I feel like people don't talk enough about it because many people don't know about the Druze because they kept it for themselves. The Druze had the same option like any Muslim who was in this land, any Arab. The Jews came back and they were thankful. And the Brits came and told them, listen guys, we're gonna split this land, you get this, you get that. The Jews said, thank you. Thank you. We really finally have...
That offer from the United Nations in 47 was a terrible deal. It was on, a minority of the land, didn't include Jerusalem. Most of it was desert. It had nearly 50% Arab population. But there were still Jews who were trapped in the displaced persons camps in Europe. And they said, okay, we'll take it.
Thank you. There's swarms, there's malaria. Thank you. We'll deal with that. Thank you.
There's malaria, but at least it's our malaria.
Yeah, exactly. We'll try it. So then the Jews came and met with their neighbors, and they said, let's live together. The Muslims said, no, we're going to kill you all. The Druze came and said, yeah, let's make this our joint country. Let's build our future together here. You respect me, I respect you. You don't try to convert me, I don't try to convert you. We can live together. And they made this beautiful blood alliance, blood covenant, you call it, that until today, it's one of the most loved communities in Israel. I think sometimes I meet Jews. I just met a taxi driver when he heard that I'm a Druze. He told me that he loved Druze more than he loved Jews. And he was a religious Jew. He said, I love you guys. If a Druze tell me that he can't pay for the taxi ride, I'll drive him anywhere. If a Jew will tell me, I was like, listen. So you go to a Druze village, you see more Israeli flags than in a Jewish city. So they really blended in the society, in the community. There is things to work on, of course, there's always.
Yeah.
But that's a great example that Israel is looking to live with anyone that is living in this country, as long as they try to live in peace. You've never heard of a suicide bomber coming from the Druze. You've never heard of a Druze walking to a mall and shouting Allahu Akbar and decided, they use the word Allahu Akbar, it's in Arabic, of going and shooting people. They have no incentive to do that. They're not trying to convert anyone, they're not trying to genocide anyone. And it's a prime example, I think.
And I think that's why the Druze community is so beloved in Israel, because the Jewish community looks and says, you had an opportunity to side with the broader Arab Muslim world, with the big ones, with the bullies, against us, a minority. But you decided to do something that other minorities maybe haven't done in the Middle East, which is to form a strategic alliance with another minority out of the same history of persecution, out of the same commitment to the fundamentally liberal value of living and let living. I want to dwell just a little bit more into the question of identity. We said that the Druze religion, ethno-religion, is an offshoot from Shia Islam. Arabic is your native tongue.
Yeah.
Now, I know it is a question within the Druze community whether or not you are Arabs. I mean, my commander in the army was a colonel. He was Druze, spoke Arabic. His name was also Mansur.
Voila.
Many of you are called Mansur.
Yeah.
And I asked him at one point, are you an Arab? And he looked at me like he was going to hit me. He almost took offense at the suggestion that he was an Arab. But I know that many do. They say, look, we speak Arabic. We're not like the Kurds who say, okay, Kurds, different, non-Arabs.
Yeah.
They do consider themselves Arabs. So are you an Arab?
Yes, so I'll tell you the academic answer and I'll tell you the cultural inside of Israel kind of answer.
Yeah, I want to hear your personal answer as well.
The answer is yes, we are Arabs. We came out of the Arab world. We have the same genetic kind of, DNA, just like many Jews that came from that world as well. They were living all together. We came from that world. We grew up in the same households, similar, just a different religion. The thing is, if you'll ask a Druze in Syria, in Lebanon, they'll tell you, of course I'm an Arab. In Israel, growing in this country, they became sometimes a negative connotation to Arabs that came from the Arabs themselves. So the Druze wanted to detach themselves. We're not the ones that want to commit suicide bombings. We're not the ones that are trying to murder all the time and to oppress all the time. So they kind of said, like, if I will go in the street and someone will ask me, hey, are you an Arab? He might think that I'm kind of with that. So they wanted to say, no, we're not like them. We're Druze. We're different. So with that came that movement of people kind of detaching from that term in that context.
In order to differentiate yourselves from the movement that is trying to eliminate the state of Israel in the name of the broader Arab.
Yeah, exactly that. And there was a lot of also negative connotation, like Avodah Aravit and all kind of stuff. So they wanted, like they said, that we're not like them. We're different. So that's why they detached. So you'll find younger Druze, not all, but you'll find some telling you, no, we're not Arab, we're Druze. But that you'll find it mostly in Israel. You won't find it. When I started doing hasbara, I realized that it's important for the world to understand that I am an Arab, because I am, because the Jews are coming from the Arab world, and that Israel is treating all of its citizens equally. Arabs, Christians, Muslims, doesn't matter what, treat them equally. So I knew the world would not understand what's a Druze. You know, they think I'm talking about Druids, maybe running in the forest, hugging trees. I had that sometimes. Yeah.
Wait, this isn't an episode with a Druid officer in the Special Forces? This is not what I prepped for.
A shaman. Yeah, no, that's not it. So yeah, we are, if you'll ask, let's say, religious elders, they'll, yeah, we're Arabs. We are one of the group that came from the Arab world, and we have our own religion and our own, ethnicity.
Are you a Zionist?
Oh yeah, of course. That's what I think people don't understand. Growing in Israel, Zionist was never like a word that you use too much. That means that you are believing in the state of Israel. You believe in the right for the Jews to come back to their country. This is their land. They were here way before us. And I'm so glad that I have these cool neighbors that I can share this land with. So for me to look at it, anywhere that I go, I never really categorize myself, I'm a Zionist. I'm an Israeli. Even in Elat, I would not even think I'm a Druze, he's a Jew. It was like, we're all from Shuna Aleph. That was kind of the thing. It was never a big thing. Outside of Israel, people started making a big deal out of it. And you start wondering.
Are you an Arab Zionist?
I guess so.
So help me understand this,
Yeah.
because
Never thought about it that way, but yeah, I guess so.
there are many glad to be part of the process of helping you figure out your identity.
Thank you.
Talk through the issues. Because there are many Arabs, citizens of Israel, who will say, I cannot identify with Israel as a Jewish state because it means that by definition, the state does not include me. I cannot salute a flag that has the Star of David because it's not my symbol. I cannot stand for Hatikva, the national anthem, which speaks about a Jewish heart, because I don't have a Jewish heart, I'm an Arab. Zionism is against me. And so you have many Arabs in Israel who will not stand for the national anthem. And yet I look at the Druze community, which is so fiercely patriotic and so obviously Zionist that you even have Zion written on the baseball cap
Yeah.
that you're wearing now.
My friends had,
And
yeah.
I want to understand how is that possible? Why do you think it is so easy for the Druze community to identify as being Zionists, Israeli patriots, identify with the vision of a Jewish state, even though you are not Jewish, whereas other Arabs find that so difficult? That dissonance is just too jarring for them.
I think there's two main reasons for that. One is theology, one is culture. From a theology perspective, the Druze detach themselves from, let's say, earthly possessions like politics and governments and stuff. I think that's like stuff that let others play these games. We want to focus more on living in our land, our family, our values, our religion.
Right, there are no Druze political parties now.
You're not allowed, technically, by the religion to form a country. So they come and say, any government that comes and decides to be over this land, as long as they respect us, we respect them. As long as they treat us fairly, we treat them fairly. Let them play their own politics. We'll pay taxes. We'll go along with that, etc. But we're not interested in having our own country. It's not. We don't want that. We don't care about it.
Fascinating. You've basically got this ideological connection between the Druze and I'll say something provocative here. Anti-Zionist Jews whose identity is based around building an identity in the diaspora that is not based around a form of a nation state. You are like those people who say, we don't want to have a country of our own. Actually, all we want is to be equal citizens and a minority.
Yeah.
That's part of the concept of being a Druze.
Live and let live. That's like exactly it. Let us live our life. We'll respect you. You want tax, as long as it's fair. And
But unlike the anti-Zionist Jews, not ganging up together with the Islamic fundamentalists.
yeah, they went AWOL.
Sorry for insulting
No,
you.
it's not. They
No
went
offense intended.
completely the other way. And now, culturally wise, you understand that this is a Jewish country. Jerusalem is a Jewish word. Yehuda v'Shomron, it's like they were here. This is their country. And finally, they managed to come back. They got kicked out of this country several times in the most horrific way, but they kept and came back. It's admirable. So it's actually their country. We respect it. And this country is so good to us. Literally, the life of an Israeli Arab is better than any other Arab in the Middle East. And I know it for a fact because I have relatives living in Syria and Lebanon. I know Muslims and Christians and Druze living in these countries that are friends of mine that talk to me. And they all say, I wish I could live in Israel. They all say, I wish, because they see how the government is oppressing them. They see how they're fighting for their lives. I had to help rescue several relatives of mine to flee from Syria and to go to Germany. And I'll give you the best example of actually how did they become perfect citizens of Germany. My mom once calls me. I find my mom one day talking to relatives of mine from Syria and Lebanon. I was an officer in a top secret unit in the army, and I came and I told Mom,
Your secret's safe with me.
yes. I said, Mom, you cannot talk with people from Syria. You're putting them in danger. You're putting us. You cannot. Right now, with what I'm doing, stop it. Okay, Habibi, I stop. I finished the army service. I go traveling the world to Africa, South America, going around.
Classic Israeli experience.
Classic Israeli, yeah. And I come back, and my mom tells me, listen, you're done with the army, right? I said, yes. Your relatives are being killed right now in Syria. Remember your grandfather, 2 brothers? So their grandchildren, your age. One of them got kidnapped by ISIS, stabbed. He fought his way out, ran away, managed to survive. The other one, ISIS want to kill him, and Nusra want to kill him, and the Syrian government want to kill him. They want to take him to the army, and what they do with the Druze people, they basically send them first to become like mine detectors.
Is that true? The Assad regime uses the Syrian Druze as cannon fodder.
Oh, yeah, big time. From his village, 250 young men like him were forced to go to the army. None of them came back alive. Either they got killed by the Muslim brothers inside, they killed him one night, they don't like him because, he's a kuffar, or they send him to, there's a sniper there, send the Druze guy.
What a difference between sending them as cannon fodder
Yeah.
and in Israel, where they are spectacularly overrepresented in the officer class.
Israel, that gave me goosebumps. 12 innocent Druze children from Maj'd al-Shams. That's a Druze village that actually, controversially kind of Israeli, not Israeli, we don't serve in the army. 12,
Because just a little bit of context for people who haven't been following too closely, there are the Druze community in Israel, and we'll unpack this in a little bit, who live around the Mount Carmel area, Daliat al-Carmel, or Sphere, where you're from. And there are the Druze of the Golan Heights, in the territory that Israel conquered from Syria in that defensive war
Only
of
in the peak of the Golan Heights,
1967. Right at the top. We'll get onto the differences in just a moment, but continue.
Yeah. So 12 Druze children got killed, and Israel literally is willing to go to war for them. You know how that made the Druze feel?
How?
That we are part of this country. That it's not just if a kid from Tel Aviv get hit or a Jewish kid get hit. A minority group that doesn't even scratch the 200,000 in Israel, in a faraway remote village, and Hezbollah shot them, and Israel came and said, enough. You killed our own children. We're going to take you down. And they're willing almost to go to war. They assassinated the leader of the second command in Hezbollah.
Fuad Shukar.
Yeah. So just to show you what's the difference. In Syria, they use you as cannon fodder. In Israel, they are willing to go to war for you because you are with them and they are with you. It's a blood covenant, in the army, in everywhere. We're shoulder by shoulder. There's no other community in Israel that have that tie.
I just want to go back to what you said earlier about how it made the Druze in Israel feel when 12 children were murdered by an Iranian rocket fired by Hezbollah. And Israel didn't say, small minority group in the corner of the country doesn't interest us. The whole country was on its feet saying these were Israeli children.
Yeah.
Because the people spoke about how the Druze are fierce patriots and overrepresented in the IDF officer corps. But actually the story of the Druze in the Golan Heights is different from the Druze around the Mount Carmel area.
Oh, yeah.
Many of those have not taken Israeli citizenship. We spoke of those children as being Israeli children. I don't know how many were actually Israeli citizens or what their nationality is. Really, it doesn't matter to me. They're under Israeli jurisdiction and sovereignty. We have responsibility for them. But maybe you can just tell me a little bit about the differences between the Druze within 1967 Israel, the Druze in the Golan Heights, and how this conflict with Hezbollah has maybe shifted perceptions, and that Druze who didn't want to take Israeli citizenship in the Golan Heights, look at how the country came around them and rallied to their defense, and maybe reconsidered. What's been going on there? Tell me the historical differences and what's been going on
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
recent weeks.
Well, you kind of nailed it. There is a fundamental minor difference, but there is what you see in front of you, what's clear to the public, and there's the politics behind. The Druze in the Golan Heights, in these villages, Maj'd al-Shams and 2 other villages around, were part of Syria. And then one day, the war came, and Israel took the Golan Heights, a strategic place. We cannot give it to the hand of these guys. They want to kill us. We're not going to let it happen. Now you have Druze there that literally the village got split in 2. They have his brother is there, and he's living here. And you see him, literally there's a fence going between these 2 towns, and you can still see the part of Maj'd al-Shams that is in Syria. And then you had many politicians in Israel every second day talking about, give back the Golan Heights, don't give back the Golan Heights. So the Druze there, the mashayikh, the elders, they were very wise and said, guys, we don't want to be a victim of any political movement here. So what's going to happen is we're not going to publicly go and say that we are full on with Israel, and then tomorrow they give us back and they just slaughter us in Syria. Or they will even kill our family right now. So they told Israel, sorry, we cannot join your army because of these ties. And Israel respected that. And then they started realizing that life in Israel is way better. Like if you go, I have relatives there. You go talk to them, tell you, hell no, I'm not going back
I've been around. You see there are Israeli health clinics around the place.
Health clinics, tourism, freedom of religion, their daughters are safe. In Syria and Lebanon, ISIS and Nusra and the government are raiding Druze villages, kidnapping them, killing them.
Yeah, it's a damn good thing we didn't give the Golan Heights to Syria when the world was pressuring us to do so.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, that's just the absurdity of the situation now when all the headlines around that horrific killing of the 12 children and media would insist on saying Israeli-occupied Golan Heights and foreign governments say Israeli-occupied Golan Heights because the territory was part of Syria for a total of, 21 years of an independent Syria, and saying, well, like literally, what do you want? Do you want us to give this territory back to Bashar
Please don't.
al-Assad? No, of course we're not going to. Of course
No, even the Druze there will tell you, please no. They will run into Israel. They know that the life there is terrible. They're treated there badly. But they also know that they need to look into the future. What's going to happen in the future? So they say, we're going to try to stay to the Druze principle of being neutral and working the land, working our ground. When I was there now, my relative, his name is Jihad. It scares the hell out of my friend when I tell him, we're going to go meet Jihad. Two Jewish friends coming from, what? Yeah, I'm going to take you to meet my Jihad. What? Yeah, it's my cousin. His name is Jihad, but we call him Juju. It's cuter. When he was working in Taglit.
That is an excellent nickname for Jihad. I have to say, if you speak about Palestinian Islamic Juju, that definitely sounds less scary than Palestinian Islamic Jihad.
He actually changed it because of the Americans. He was doing Taglit kind of trips, teaching them kayaking and everything, and they get scared shit when he's doing the snippling with them. Like he's tying the rope. Oh, my name is Jihad. They're like, Jihad is going to throw me down the cliff. So he said, Juju. My name is Juju. So anyway, he's a farmer. He's a real farmer, a gentleman, philosopher. And he took us and he showed us tomato, the best tomato we had in our life. And he says, the seed for this tomato, the secret for that tree came from my great-grandfather to his son, to my grandfather, to me, and I'm always trying to perfect it. And then you realize the connection that they have with the land. It's how they get the food from, is how they feed their family, is this art of working that land. So the Druze are very connected to the land. So in Maj'd al-Shams, they said, let's play this political game. Once a year, we'll go to this demonstration. We don't really mean it, but we're just going to stay here in Israel.
A demonstration?
They once a year go and do a demonstration like about the politics in Syria, showing involvements and all kind of silly stuff, showing involvement with the Syrian regime. But
and you're saying that identification with the regime was essentially performative?
Oh yeah,
just to keep up appearances.
Oh yeah. I think everybody kind of knows that, but there's just kind of all right. It's comfortable. And Israel respects that. I find it very interesting. Israel respects it. We understand you. And we're not.
You do what you need to do.
Yeah. A lot of the Druze in Israel actually didn't like it that much. Because some of the Druze in Israel says, no, guys, wake up. You know what's happening there. Because the Druze, let's say if that rocket would have landed on not the Maj'd al-Shams Druze, but let's say on Osfia or Mghar, my villages, you would have had a battalion of Druze right now going and probably solving the entire war in the Middle East in 2 weeks. They would have just probably went to Lebanon and finished the war, as they know how to do. If you remember that story when they kidnapped the Druze kid in Jenin. So I had a friend from the Shabak, a very good friend of mine, that came and told me the story from his perspective. He said, one day we wake up, we get a phone call that there's a Druze teenager that got kidnapped by Hamas in the West Bank. So they call everybody to the war room. It's like, oh my God, it's going to be the next Gilad Shalit. We're going to end up 3-4 years from now. It's terrible. This is terrible. That was the one when one kidnapped Israeli was like a huge thing. Now we have 240 got kidnapped.
251 taken on October
251, insane. So anyway, as they're sitting in the war room and everybody, the Mossad, the Shabak, and all talking, they suddenly get a phone call. Guys, stand down. What do you mean? The Druze went and brought him back. Like, what? That's a Shabak guy. He told me. We're like, what? Are you kidding me? He said, yeah, a bunch of Druze Shabab went and brought him back. The Druze just humbled us. Like the Shabak even was sitting. And it's as if the Druze were kind of looking at the Shabak and they're like, guys, you're very cute. We like how you do it. It's cute, the uniform and everything that you do. We love it. You're pretty good. But step aside. Arabic. Let us speak the language of the Arab man. You guys don't know that language. They went in, brought him back in the same day.
So tell me, what changes have we seen then with the Golan Heights Druze once they realize, okay, the Golan Heights are never going back to Syria, no one wants it to go back to Syria. Has there been a shift in terms of them seeing themselves as more Israeli, viewing themselves as part of a single community with the Druze around the Mount Carmel area? What are you noticing changing in recent weeks since that attack on Maj'd al-Shams and the massive outpouring of sympathy and solidarity that they saw from the Israeli public and from the state?
Oh, yeah. I actually noticed that straight when I got there, because I've been there to that village many times. I have relatives there, very close ones. I came from Germany straight, and I went straight there. I made a post. 2 Jewish friends of mine came and said, we got a car, we'll take you. And we went there, and first I was very impressed by the message that the religious sheikhs brought down. Like, my relative met with us and told us, Mansur, tell your friends, I don't know if they're media or not, they're influencers, and he said, tell them that we don't want the blood of our children to be used to promote any political agenda. If anything, we want the blood of our innocent children to be a symbol of why we should finish these wars, why we should aspire for peace. And I found that like beautiful and gave me goosebumps. I said, you know, I respect that completely. Probably a different message than what you've got from, let's say, the other Druze in Israel in that particular scenario. But then, as we were talking, a little girl came to us, 12 years old, and she was shy, standing in my jihad. Came, شو حبيبتي تعالي, and she says, I want to talk to you guys. And she started speaking, and she said, why are you killing us? And she said, I want this to go to Lebanon, to Hezbollah. Why are you killing us? You killed my friends.
Who is she talking to?
She was sending that message to Lebanon, to Syria, to Hezbollah, to all these radical jihadists out there. Says,
all those radical Jews out there.
All the radical Jews that are standing. Yeah, exactly. Why are you killing us? And it was so hard. I was crying. And she said, you killed my friends. They will never come back. What did you achieve? And then she got really angry. She said, you know what? I wish on you that you will start feeling what we felt. I wish that you get that same fate. And that was a girl. And then you saw there were a lot of kids there, I felt. I was starting to feel like, wow, you know what? Israel is protecting us. Israel is the only home we have in the Middle East. And I feel like this might be a big shift there because they saw it. Because even standing there, I'm standing talking to her next to the football field. Well, you know, the rocket just landed and killed these kids. And they were like, you know, all the symbols of all the gore, you know, the blood pieces all around, etc. I mean, they cleaned it, but they left like, you know, ribbons, black ribbons. So I'm standing there, and suddenly I see behind me a family of mitnakhalim, settlers, coming there with the whole attire and the whole children coming to show love for the Druze. And then I see a family of Tel Avivi people coming. And then I see Christians, and I see Muslim imams and Christian, you know, priests and rabbis. And they saw the whole country. They've never, I even talked to my cousin there, he said, we've never experienced such solidarity in our life. The whole village went out and started putting plastic chairs outside. All of the young men in the village were going outside giving coffee to people. It became like a whole village effort to welcome the overwhelming wave, tidal wave of support that they got from Jews, Christians, Arabs. It doesn't matter. And you can, only in Israel, you can have that. Only, and I think everybody there clicked it like, this is unheard of. You will never, there's so many Druze who got murdered by ISIS, by Nusra, by, you know, in Syria, hundreds, thousands. And no one will come and grieve them from the other village. If anything, they will come to kill them in the funeral.
That's amazing. And I think the reason you get such an outpouring of solidarity from the Jewish community in this country is that we're feeling very isolated, very abandoned by people who in the West we thought were our allies and turned on us after October 7th. And here is a community that says, hey, we're even more patriotic than you are. And coexistence is possible with a different religion, with a different language. All it takes is not to want to kill the Jews, right?
Yeah.
And we can be best of buddies. And beyond that, you know, I'll go back to this point about the Druze being phenomenally overrepresented in the IDF and the officers corps. Their schools are among some of the best performing schools in the country. Yeah. The community are a community of, you can say, overachievers. I mean, you could say the Druze are the Jews of Israel, right?
That's an interesting, in some ways.
And I'm wondering, how did that happen? How did it happen that this community, to say, okay, we'll be equal citizens, okay, but then you expect like the national average. How did they come to surpass the national average in so many of these metrics?
I think because Israel created a platform that is so welcoming and so healthy for minority groups that if they actually tie their identity with the land of Israel, they can be so blessed. Like one of the most educated groups in Israel are the Christian Arabs. They're among the most educated group because they don't need to serve in the army and they get all the privileges like Israelis, and then they start.
They can go to med school at 18.
Yeah, by the age of 24, I'm an officer in the army. The guy's already a dentist, running his own clinic. So when you say, I'm not going to try to annihilate the Druze, I'm not going to try to support suicide bombing in kindergartens and schools and lynching and kidnapping. Instead, I'm going to try to live in this country. You're going to get one of the best opportunities that you can get in the world as an Arab, better than in Europe, way better.
Which, by the way, is extraordinary when you hear the anti-Zionist argument against Israel saying, okay, we know the Germans were a bit mean to you in Europe, but why did Palestinians have to pay the price for that? And you go, but hang on, the Arabs who are living in the Jewish state have by far the best quality of life, by far the most superior rights anywhere in the Middle East.
Yeah.
You have not paid a price for the persecution of Jews in Europe.
Yeah.
You have, in some perverse way, been prime beneficiaries in that the creation of a Jewish state and the absorption of Jewish immigration from around the region created a liberal democracy that is a far better place for any Arab to live than anywhere else around the region. And I want to go back to what you were saying before with this story that I think most of our viewers probably will not have heard of, about the kidnapping of a Druze teenager and how the Druze went in and saved him. And you said, we speak Arabic.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, there are some people who speak about, we need to understand the Arab mentality and how the Arabs think in the region. And I always go to like, okay, it sounds like a little bit racist. Okay, obviously they don't think the same. What does it mean to speak Arabic? But there is something that you get as an Arabic speaker, someone plugged into the same media landscape as well, the same historical story about how people in the rest of the region see this conflict, think, interact with the world. So what does it mean to speak Arabic? What do you think we Israeli Jews are not getting that you as Israeli Druze see?
Yeah, from childhood, we're born with it, kind of. We see it. You see, I would even narrow it down. The Ashkenazi Jews, they're far. They don't see it at all. The Jews that came from Morocco...
They don't see what?
The language, what it means speaking Arabic. Druze have been living in this land for the last 1,000 years, and they've been dealing with the threats of the Middle East. Radical Islam want to basically conquer and destroy and kill everyone, or convert them. So they know how to speak that language. They know what it means. They know what they respect.
So for our Ashkenazi Jewish listeners, what does it mean?
What it means, if I bring it down to two words, power and respect. And respect cannot come without power. That is the language that you need to understand in the Middle East. If you don't understand the language, you are doomed.
Power and respect.
And I'll give you the best example. I come from the world of negotiation. Let's say me and you are having an argument right now about who this plant belongs to. You say, it's mine.
This is my studio.
Exactly. No, you say, it's my studio. I said, no, I want it. Now, you are way stronger than me. And you come and say...
I don't know, you're a special forces officer.
For the sake of the story. And you come and say, if this guy takes my plant, I can break every bone in his body. But then you come and you say, but you know what? For the sake of peace, I'm going to listen. How about I'll give you part of the plant and you grow it, or I don't know what, we can grow it together for peace. Everybody in your world, let's say in the European, American world, say like, wow, that was a sign of strength. That man showed restraint, showed diplomacy. He's a powerful man. In the Arab world, that man is weak. He's pretending to be strong, but I sense weakness. I can exploit that. Because if he was strong, he would have broke every bone in my body for daring to come and tell him, give me that, what is yours.
That's fascinating. You're saying that what in the West would be interpreted as restraint, as magnanimity, as a peace-building, confidence-building gesture, will be seen in the Arab world as a sign of weakness.
Oh, absolutely.
And weakness is then an invitation for more aggression.
For more violence. Yeah. Look at every Arab country that had a dictator, and when the dictator went down. The dictator was terrible. What happened? They became worse. Why? Because the power and respect was taken away. And it actually solved wars in the middle. I'll give you the best example right now, Iran. Iran, we're sitting here in the studio and we might have rockets landing on us any second because we're just waiting for these lunatics. Iran have everything to lose from fighting Israel and America. they're way stronger than her. They can go and destroy their nuclear, dream. They can take down that regime and make everybody happy in the Middle East almost.
Inshallah, as they say.
Inshallah, exactly. But they don't smell power and respect from Israel and from America right now, so they're allowing themselves to push. They're allowing the Houthis, a bunch of clowns riding on camels, going, Allahu Akbar, we're going to destroy. How can the Houthis destroy America, They don't sense. China is the biggest enemy of Islam right now. They have concentration camps that they're keeping Muslims in concentration camps.
The Uyghurs.
You will not see any Muslim going now and shooting a rocket at China. Or clear, because they sense power and respect there. They look at the West and they see weakness. We see it as humanitarian, as the highest value. They see it as weakness, and they exploit it. And the Druze in Israel and some of the Jews that came from the Arab countries, they understand that. They understand if I am not strong in the Middle East, if I don't have strength, power, and respect, they will take advantage. They will become, we'll have more bloodshed. But if you show power and respect, they step back. They calm down. In every Arab country, they need to have a very strong leader. Otherwise, it goes to hell.
That's fascinating because Israel finds itself under so much pressure from the Western world and the largely Western rules of international diplomacy. Yes, the other side has just committed an act of aggression, but you need to de-escalate, show restraint, not use the strength that you have. And we saw this, by the way, during the last attack in April when Iran launched 350 missiles and drones at Israel in a single night. The world told Israel, don't respond, don't do anything, draw a line under the sand. But Israel said, no, we have to respond somehow. And there was some reported under-the-radar strike on an Iranian facility, and then we called it quits. But you're saying that the message that the Iranians receive from that is vulnerability and an invitation to more aggression and violence and to push the line even
more than that. The message that the Iranians receive is vulnerability from you guys, from the West, from Israel and America, and they also got another message. They gained more respect in the eyes of their allies, the radical Muslims in our world, because we are the only ones that dare to defy Israel, that dare to stand in the face of America, and we look them in the eyes and tell them, we're going to destroy you. And we even shoot rockets at them. And what do? They do nothing. So now in their world, they're getting what? Power and respect.
Which is why Hamas has become so wildly popular since the October 7th massacre, because it is able to turn around to the Palestinian public and say, we are the ones exercising power, demanding restraint in the face of the evil Zionists, and that helps them, and that actually the gestures you're saying that Israel is pressured into from the West to show that it's magnanimous. We have strength, but we're not going to use all of it because we are gracious.
Yeah, they see it as weakness.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what you think the implications of that need to be as Israel confronts the Iranian regime and its proxy armies attacking us on 7 fronts. And I'll list them again because 7 is a lot to remember. We have Hamas in Gaza, terrorist groups in the West Bank, which Iran is trying to flood with weapons, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthi Islamic pirates in Yemen, Iranian militias in Syria, Iranian militias in Iraq, Iran itself, that's 7. I add an 8th front, which is the diaspora. And of course, Iran is trying to destabilize Jordan, turn that into a 9th, and to rope in the Taliban, make that a 10th. What do you think the implications of understanding the Arab mentality need to be for Israel's geopolitical strategy in trying to contain Iran and to bring the West on board, which doesn't understand it, into this effort to contain Iran?
I think right now we have a rare opportunity, I would dare to call it, that not only for Israel, America, and even Europe, where you have a chance to respond in the way that you should respond. And let's say it that way. Who is going to be happy if you bring down the radical Islamic Republic of Iran? The Iranian people will be happy. Europe will be happy. Israel will be happy. The West will be happy. They all will benefit from that. Who is going to suffer? And the Muslim countries around them, by the way. Saudi Arabia, Jordan, all these guys, they don't like them. These guys are lunatics. They're the only one holding right now to the dream of destroying Israel. All the other Arab countries kind of said, okay, let's calm down with that silly idea. They're not going anywhere. Let's try to live with them. Maybe yes, maybe no. There's still one holding. So if the West will realize that you have a rare opportunity right now to take it all down, to destroy it, if you take down this Islamic regime of Iran, if you respond now strong enough and tell them, who do you think you are that you say that you're going to destroy Israel and destroy? They're calling for the destruction, for the genocide of Israel. They're calling for the genocide of America. There's no other country in the world that is calling for that. Not even China and Russia are saying that. They're saying, we're going to genocide you all. So they come and they bring it to them and they show power and they bring back respect. What happened is, the entire Middle East, it might be 1 year, 2 years, there's going to be a war.
It's like if you actually threaten regime change.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. That will stabilize the Middle East. That will stabilize Europe with the immigration and the radical Islam that is being sponsored by Iran. Look at Britain right now. I mean, there's gangs of Muslims shouting Allahu Akbar, running with axes in the street, chasing Brit people. I mean, they're still not waking up.
And provoking a horrible counter-reaction as well.
And shouting Allahu Akbar together, Allahu Akbar, and running around. I'm looking at this like, wow, you guys, can't you see what's going on? This is an invasion. This is all sponsored by Iran, by the way, or at least big part of it. They're pushing for that. So you take down Iran, not the people of Iran. They're great people. You take down the radical Muslim government of Iran, and Hamas will start fading away, Hezbollah will start fading. It will just go down.
But it starts with an actual, credible military deterrent.
Absolutely.
And a threat to use force against Iran, rather than constantly calling to de-escalate and this Westsplaining mentality that says they don't mean it. They see it as weakness.
Weakness.
I wonder,
I'll just cut about that. Iran right now, if the West doesn't respond strong, not only that they will shoot at Israel and will, they will come stronger. They will come stronger because we are the one who dared. Show me one other Arab country that dared to be like us, to shoot rockets in America and Israel, and they don't do nothing. That's how it's perceived from their world.
More specifically and locally here as well, we have a conflict with the Palestinians. Mm-hmm. You might have heard about it.
Yeah, here and there.
And the world, the orthodoxy within foreign policy circles is still, the only way to solve this conflict is a two-state solution in which Israel will withdraw from the mountains surrounding Jerusalem and overlooking Tel Aviv and make itself 9 miles wide. And as the Palestinians are chanting from the river to the sea, Israel will give them territory from the river to 9 miles away from the sea, while they're promising to sprint the remaining distance and divide the capital city and give away the holy sites and admit refugees. And if Israel, which is the stronger party, only shows magnanimity and makes itself vulnerable, then that is the way to achieve peace, rather than, actually trying to win this war and force the Palestinians to sue for peace. And what you're telling me is that these Westsplaining diplomats don't understand that any Israeli concessions are going to be interpreted not as a sign of strength. Look how strong we are that we can afford to relinquish power, but as a sign of weakness that will invite more aggression.
Absolutely.
Would you say that, given the prevailing Arab mentality in the Middle East, a two-state solution would not solve the conflict? It would, in fact, make it worse.
Oh, absolutely. Right now, absolutely. I mean, look at what they're saying. They're saying we want another October 7. They're saying this is just the beginning. And that's, not only the leaders of Hamas, there's like crazy statistics, 70% here, 80% there, from their own university that showed that they supported Hamas. They supported the genocide of the Jews. So would you give them a state now? They don't want only a state. They say, we don't want only a state. We want entire Israel. So would you give people like that? I say, oh, you know what, guys? I know you want to destroy us all. Let me give you a gift. Let me give you... That doesn't make sense. They're not partners for peace. The only time that I would come and say a two-state solution would have worked if we had allies or neighbors there that really want peace, that really focus their life on innovation, on science, on high-tech, rather than on teaching their kids from a young age to murder the Jews and drink their blood.
On innovation, not invasion.
Exactly. So if that was the case, and that's not the case, if that was the case, I would come and tell you, you know what, that might be a good idea. You might end up having really good neighbors here and good ties. Maybe that's something to talk about. But no, they literally want to see you all dead. And not all of them. I have very close friends in Gaza from before.
How are they?
Many of them fled. Some of them were
fled out of Gaza.
out of Gaza.
They paid for the expensive Egyptian visas to get out.
Expensive Egyptian visas, or some of them were working for humanitarian, government.
Which, by the way, is really astonishing chutzpah for Egypt to join South Africa's frivolous case at the ICJ, accusing Israel of genocide while charging people thousands of dollars to escape that
Not only
genocide.
that, Egypt tortured Gazans. Egypt, flooded their tunnels, and the reason that they don't have drinkable water is because Egypt told them, hey, stop with the tunnels. They said, no, they just opened the ocean and flooded, and now all of their drinking water. The reason that people, and I have friends in Gaza that are showering with salty seawater bottled and then washing it with a little bit it's because Egypt did that to them. No one talks about that.
Because Egypt destroyed tunnels using seawater that contaminated the
destroyed,
groundwater.
kidnapped people, tortured them in basements, and et cetera, until Hamas spoke Arabic to them. Until Hamas said, okay,
Sorry. Back to your friends. How are they doing?
So, some of them have lost their children in this war. One of them is a very tragic personal story. She was having difficulty with pregnancy. And she had twins inside, and the doctors in Gaza told her they're gonna die. So, me and another friend of mine, a very dear friend, managed to get her permission to come to Israel. So they saved one child. And
During the war?
That was before.
Before the war.
Before. And she said something very interesting when she came to Israel. She was shocked. She said, all my life I've been hearing that Israel is desolated land. It's destroyed. It's, Hamas have destroyed all of Israel. People in Israel
That's
are
what
living
they've been teaching them.
like Truman Show. They're living in their own Truman Show. People in Israel are living in fear. They hate each other, violent. And then she said, I came to Israel. It's clean. It's friendly. The doctors were so nice and kind to me, Jews and etc. And she was shocked. She was literally, that was the main thing in her head, almost more than the birth. She was like, came back, she's like, I've been lied to all my life. Literally, she went back to Gaza with that, shock in her mind. And sadly, during the war, she lost her son.
Oh, no.
So there is tragic stories that I know, and there is innocent people there that are just being oppressed and held. And Hamas is using houses, is using kindergartens, hospitals, shooting. I remember when I was in the army, the level of humanitarian level that we'd be asked to was insane. In the tanks in Israel, you have that system, and now it's even more. When someone put a laser on you, you can click a button, and the cannon will just turn at it straight away. And then you have a glimpse of a second, should I shoot a rocket or not? So what they would do, they will come and they will give candies.
This just, when were you serving in the Gaza Strip?
Before the disengagement.
Before the
I was
disengagement.
inside of Gaza, full-on war, day and night, living inside there. And they will come and give candies, I don't know what, from a kindergarten, and then they will put the laser on the tank, and the tank now have a split of a second. Should I shoot, or should me and my crew die immediately?
You're saying that they've given out candies in order to surround
Surrounded with children.
in order to surround the terrorists with children.
Yeah, he will that was a known tactic that would do. Right. And then when all the kids are around him, he'll pull the RPG or this, put the laser on, and then the tank will turn. And now the captain have a chance, like, should I shoot, should I not? And if he sees children, many times he would not shoot. You're risking yourself to die and not shooting to defend yourself. And sometimes you just shoot. You don't even see what's happening. You turn around, you know that you and your team are going to be dead right now. That's how difficult it is to maintain humanitarian values during war. It's very, it's easy to say,
confront soldiers
how did they kill
with
kids?
Impossible moral dilemmas against the basic impulse of self-preservation. And we've been saying for a long time that Hamas have been using Palestinian civilians in Gaza not only as human shields, but as human sacrifices.
And then you have dead
it's
children.
Sick and it's psychotic.
Then you have dead children, and the media, of course, will celebrate that. How did Israel do that? How dare they? Don't know the complicity that is going. They weren't there. I've seen that so many times. We'd go to a mission, we'd get briefed so much more than the operation itself about which zones we cannot even shoot, even if we shot at from. You get shot from there, take cover, keep doing your mission, don't shoot back, because if you miss, you might hit a school or I don't know what. So we're put like such a high humanitarian level that nowhere else in the world have done it. I have colleagues of mine, friends of mine from the special forces in America, in Europe, that were in Afghanistan, other places in the world. I hear the stories we share. They're always shocked by how strict and restrained we are in Israel with our engagement rules and opening fire rules, way more than them. Actually, one of the lower ones were the Europeans, because they're not used to war. When they go to there, they're like trigger happy. They're scared of everything. America got a little bit, but even still not to this level. And I know it from literally friends of mine and colleagues of mine from that world.
Which makes the moralizing from Europeans all the more frustrating, because Israel is dealing with an urban battlefield, the likes of which no country has ever experienced, and therefore these countries simply do not have answers for Israel. No. They can only come to Israel with questions about how you deal with an urban battlefield that has been booby-trapped to the eyeballs by a terrorist organization that wants to use civilians as human, not only human shields, but as human sacrifices. And I'm wondering, you're describing your military service with the IDF inside the Gaza Strip. There must be a tense relationship between the Druze and the Palestinians. The Druze are overrepresented in COGAT, for example, the Israeli unit that is responsible for the civilian side of its control of the territories and humanitarian aid, because they are Arabic speakers. And I've heard this from Palestinians. They regard the Druze as sort of collaborators with Israel. Can you talk to me about the relationship between the Druze and the Palestinians, and how the Druze community in Israel approach the question of the Palestinian cause and the Palestinian forever war to try to destroy the Jewish state that is also your state as a Druze citizen?
When I was an officer in charge of the crossing of Kalandia border, and I built a very good relationship with the Palestinians there. Because I spoke Arabic, we'll sit and drink tea, baklava. I even told them you have a special line, like in the airport for VIP, for elderly. When you have an elderly, you communicate with me. I'll send one of my guys, my soldiers, will help him walk so he walks faster. So the khalta, the sheikh, doesn't need to wait in the sun. If a woman is pregnant, I made like this very informal channel with them to help them, and they respected that a lot. But then when you came closer and they started sharing, they told me like, "Lesh inti khayin? Why are you a traitor? Why are you with them and not with us?" And then I came and told them, you know, that's very rude of you to even ask me that. For the last 1,000 years, you've been trying to kill my people. Day in, day night, genocide them. And now that we are standing with the only people that are not trying to kill us here, you're calling me a traitor. And I gave them shit. I said, how dare you call me a traitor? Well, what about maybe stop trying to murder us or murder anyone that is not like you? And then you can come and ask someone, hey, why aren't you on my side? Which side should I go to? You guys, you're literally trying to kill us. Over and over and over, you know? And in the West, if I'll say that, they'll call me an Islamophobe, you know, which is like ridiculous. They have no idea what they're dealing with. So we know it. So they see us as traitors, and many times they come and they say that if they will catch a Druze, they will torture him more than if they torture a Jew. That's what, like in Palestine, other Hezbollah say, etc.
And that only underscores the importance of the covenant and alliance between the Jews and the Druze as two minorities in a very hostile region. You know, I never understand how people think that taking the cause of terrorists who want to reimpose a caliphate in this land is being anti-colonial. I can think of nothing more imperial. And this alliance between the Jews and the Druze is, you know what, call it an intersectional post-colonial alliance. It is everything that progressives in the West should love. I hope if they're listening to this podcast episode, they will connect with our story. Mansur, for people who want to learn more about the Druze community in Israel, even come and visit and explore the community, what do you recommend? What resources should they use? Where should they visit when they're on the ground?
If you come to Israel, I would recommend go to almost any Druze village in Israel.
We're talking?
Mine is Asfiya, very hospitable. Mghar, Maj'd al-Shams, other Rami.
Daliat al-Carmel is great fun.
Very good. And you'll find that the Druze are among the most hospitable, welcoming people. Not only that they don't care about your religion, or your background, your color, they don't care. They actually are fascinated by it because they believe that all of your religions are right, are just different pictures. So they will be more than welcoming, more than helping. You can follow Druze influencers. There's Lorena, that I know that she's a spokesman for the government here. She does a great job. I do my podcast a little bit more about
with the foreign ministry.
With the foreign ministry, true. About more of the military, maybe special forces, and the life of an Arab in Israel. So you can start knowing a little bit more about the Druze, and I think the Druze will be super excited because they're such a small, tiny group that no one even knows them. They're super happy when people come and want to get to know them. So you'll be welcome, and guaranteed you'll get probably the best food in Israel. I don't want to offend other. I know Moroccans have good food and other, but
your food is pretty damn good.
yeah, you know what?
It's pretty good.
Hard to argue with my
And
mom.
you know what I'll say to the Ashkenazi Jews? It beats herring any day.
Oh
Mansur Ashkar, thank you very much for coming
Thank you,
on State of
brother.
a
It was
Nation.
my pleasure.
Thank you. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of State of a Nation with Mansur Ashkar exploring the Druze community in Israel. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever else you get your podcasts. Give us a like on all the social media platforms. Give us a 5-star review. Share it with all of your friends to get the word out there. I'm Elon Levy, and we will be back soon with more episodes that take you beyond the headlines and between the lines. Thanks for joining us.